Let's do it.
All right. Well, as we discussed, it would have been really easy to bail today, but here we are.
Man, I even tried. I'll be totally honest. I said, listen, I got a lot of stuff going on this morning. My mom's flying in. We're not doing anything next week. Let's mail it in, man, which is usually not my thing. And you're like, no, the people, they need us. And we need to do it. So you got me with the nice, solid Mike Tarrolly's version of the Jimmy V speech. So we are here. We are here for our last podcast of the year. It's December 21st, the year 2023. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast, and this is episode 737.
I think that's right, man. Maybe that's the topic. Right. It's easy to bail.
Yeah.
It's real easy to bail these days, man.
Well, it's easy to bail, and listen, this is the last one of the year. I'm still gonna give it the good old Johnny College try here, but it's funny because I was I'm working right now, but I'm not working. I'm working every day, as we know, but more so doing like season planning and stuff, and I still had going into peak at athlete stuff because look at and how we're gonna do things next year, and it really is like, and everyone talks about like this period of time, right? Because that hasn't even happened yet, like the period of time between Christmas Day in New Year's, where basically no one does anything, right? No one does anything. People, even if people rarely work, they're fake working, right? Which is, let's be honest, a lot of people are fake working these days anyway. They're fake working. They got family. They're traveling. Like I was reading it's like 2 days ago, the stock market had like a giant day, and yesterday had like its worst day since September, and it was like an epically bad day. And what they were saying was like, traders are usually like a little more lax on paying attention. I'm like, can you think about that for a minute? People that are managing your money on a day-to-day basis, minute by minute basis, are like, you know what? Oh, man, people are, maybe I should sell. Maybe I should get on that. But it's like this weird, the year's over and we haven't started. It's like no man's land. It is legit no man's land for people's goals, people, how to finish, because generally, like, people feel like their year is over. My year is done. I can't really negative split this year any more than I can so far. This next week's really not going to help me in the negative split. So I've either nailed this year or I haven't. But what I don't want to do, I think this is like the fascinating part, and we talk about this a lot on like a micro level when it comes to like the Monday through Sunday, week schedule that everyone wants to restart things on Monday, is even if people are like motivated right now, like they're feeling pretty good, they're like, yeah, let's just pump the brakes and hold off till next year. Like it almost doesn't count, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I don't really want to I don't want to like waste any of my positivity and motivation and commitment and determination on 2023. Yeah. That ship sailed. Like, however they got my grade for the year, I either passed, I either failed, I either got an E for effort, an N for improvement. My fitness is what it is. I'm not sure I'm willing to put any effort and fitness into my 2023 bod. I think I want to wait until 2024. And then usually, as we all know happens, like next week is total dead zone. You're eating, cookie cakes at 7:00 in the morning. You got unwrapping presents. You got stress. You got family. People are stress eating. A lot of people are stress drinking. You got holiday parties. You got ball games. People are going through 17 bags of Tostitos chips and salsa every other day, and everyone's sitting. And then we all wonder why it's so hard to like jumpstart our motivation when January 2nd or January 1st happens. Which it's funny because this year January 1st falls on a
Monday,
right? Which I find very, from like a behavioral standpoint, I find that very intriguing, because usually, because I used to be that guy, January 1st, one of my most famous videos I ever did with you that will probably never see the light of day was done on January 1st. I was most certainly still hungover, if not drunk from the night before. And I think I got up at like 10:00 on January 1st, went to Broadway Brew House and snagged a mimosa. And by the time I saw you, I was I think look, I came over in my Wisconsin hoodie to watch the Wisconsin bowl game. Is that what I did? And you I kind of feel like you took advantage of me. You're like, you know what? I'm gonna hold this over. So I'm gonna get him on video real quick. And it was it's actually a decent video. But anyway, it's funny because January 1st starts. It's on a Monday. So how are people gonna really choose to start their week and start their year? Best case scenario, it's on a Monday, but as we know, most people like to go out the night before and partake in all the fun things that happens on New Year's Eve. And so are you going to wait till next Monday and not do it? And so, yeah, it's from a behavioral standpoint, it's fun to just kind of sit back and watch, and you even kind of judge yourself on, like I'm judging myself on. Been playing some tennis, but trying to get my motivation back to do some races this year, more than one race, and kind of get back in the swing of things. And I find myself like planning for a January 1 start, not like planning for Monday. What's Monday? No, Monday's Christmas, right?
Yeah,
so it's like,
so
I can't plan that. Yes, we're all screwed basically till January 7th. We're all screwed.
Yeah, man, it's I've been putting a lot of choice days on January 1. And it's, don't listen, but it's kind of reverse psychology, because it's sort of like, if I force you to, hey, go hit the pool on Monday, January 1st, it's, people will be like, come on, man. It's, family day, Badgers playing. We're going to watch the game and shit. But now it's like, they're going to revolt and actually work out, I think. So hopefully here's the deal. And I almost like did this, and I didn't give anyone swims between December 25th and January 1st. Cause it's just, if you want to go swim, go swim. But I think it's an interesting, again, like piece of psychology, because, I equate it to kind of like buying a brand new car versus buying a used car, or moving into a new build, right? Brand new construction, or walking into a house that's been lived in. Like I noticed this when the first two houses we lived in Hermitage and Nashville and Chattanooga were both brand new builds. And so you kind of tiptoe around things, and like, with the kid, you're like, don't do that. You're going to scratch the wall. The whole house is perfect. You can hear the dogs. Well, the house we moved into Overland Park had been, it's like 10 years old. Scratches on the wall already, need some paint. It's already got some scratch on the floor from a dog before. It's kind of liberating to not have to like worry about that. And so I think in a way it could be kind of liberating to start the year off with a red or with a day off. And then you're like, you know what? I've already established the year is not perfect, right? Same thing goes like, buying a new car. You might have a scratch here, you might have a smear on like, the back. You're trying not to get scratches or stains, but if you buy a used car, they're already there. You're a little less careful with it. And I think it allows you to kind of relax a little bit and stop obsessing about making sure everything is perfect. Yeah. And I think that like, what are you laughing at? Well, because I did that when I moved to Nashville. I got my big new job and everything, and I went and bought a damn brand new BMW, and I still had I think it was a Jetta or something, and it still ran, but I could tell it was going down. And when I moved, I said, Dad, I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna live the high life. I'm gonna get a Beamer, and he's like, yeah, that's my son. The whole thing.
Didn't he want you to get a Beamer? Or
yeah. He was like, yeah, you should get a Beamer when you're done. So I did it against my brand new, and the same thing. I was living at a place with a garage, and I kept the Beamer in the garage for like a year. I drove the Jetta because I was so damn scared to take that thing out anyway.
I love it.
And finally, it caved in. My Jetta, the alarm kept going off. And like I'd be driving down the highway and the alarm would go off and people would be looking like, what the hell? I couldn't figure out how to stop it. The only way to stop it actually was to get out and put the key in the trunk. It was a weird, like, short thing. Anyway, but I totally identify with what you're talking about.
You might as well sell a Jetta if you need it, if it has issues, because the cost to repair one of those is astronomical.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I actually sold it to a guy, and while he was writing the check, the alarm went off. Go ahead, it's yours.
Oh, legit. But no, it's true, right? Like we do this again. Like I'm sure, you're the house you're in now on the lake is a new construction.
Yeah.
Right. I do. I think it's like it's liberating.
I think, to like not, or, I think in triathletes, we do this with brand new bikes. Right? Ooh. We'll see athletes that are about to, one of my favorite, kind of visuals on race morning is when you see the triathlete that's about to totally coat their bike in sugary drink and gels and possibly urine, and then lake-soaked chamois cream butter all over their seat. My favorite thing is to watch them pick up their bike and carry it over the grass.
Yeah.
Because especially in a new bike, you don't want it scratched. You don't want anybody breathing on it. There's a liberating feel and an increased flexibility, I think, in imperfection and not focusing so much. And I think that's why so many people fail when it comes to New Year's resolutions and these gigantic goals and these really, really high expectations, is that, and I think triathletes are famous for this, is, it's extremes, like, extremes. It's one end or the other. It's perfection or total imperfection. Like, I'm not even going to start doing it unless it can be perfect. For me, for example, I could have easily gone out and run for 30 minutes today, but I'm like, yeah, what part of the plan is it? Where does it fit in the schedule? Well, I'm not really on a schedule. It doesn't even matter. And having a motivated for it, is it even going to count? Even though we talk about this, it's like, it's still a struggle, but it would have been good for me and good for my body. I went out and did it yesterday and went for a walk. And so I think reframing things, as we start the new year and start a new year, because we talk a lot about in many of our podcasts with athletes and to not think through, right. And listen, everybody's due for a break. I get it. I'm most certainly not telling people to not take a break. I'm taking a break. I encourage everyone to take a break. But I think the lesson, as we kind of move into the year is that breaks are okay, right? And breaks are encouraged. Maybe not a month, but a couple days here and there, or the flexibility to know that breaks are okay. Like we have our season planning format, and I've had a lot of athletes ask, hey, I'm thinking about going on this vacation. It's like 9 weeks out from, my race, is it going to mess things up? I'm like, first of all, who cares? Right. And that's like a 10-day trip to Alaska. They're going to be totally off the grid and be fishing the whole time. I'm like, why would you ever skip that for a 5-hour race 9 weeks later that may or may not mess up? Right. And so what we get, I think, in this pattern of being so obsessed with perfection or predicting perfection or what's going to, allow us to be in the best spot. And I think a lot of seasoned veterans, and even myself included, could probably tell you numerous stories of races that went really, really well, of what we would consider more than, lackluster or by far ideal conditions leading into a race.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know you've got stories, like that. I mean, I think we all do. And your workouts and your big days. And it's just, I think I can't, and I'm not going to make this like a big flexibility podcast. We do that a lot. But it's one of those things where, I think it's a much healthier way to approach the year, to expect imperfection and slow and steady kind of monotonous progress than to expect perfection. And then because what happens if you expect perfection, then you in turn also expect a return that is equal or greater to the investment you put in, which is your expected perfection. And so you expect these grandiose things, and then things aren't perfect. And then so and that's why you see so much, I think, self-sabotaging in mid to late, mid-January, early February, is people quit. They're done. Even if they've made progress, it was either unsustainable or, right, they tried to cut out sugar, carbs, fat, and protein from their diet, and they're going to the water and air diet, and they drop a bunch of weight, and they realize they can't do it. And there's just or it goes back to, we say a lot of, great is the enemy of good. And we set these, I haven't set New Year's resolutions or goals in I don't know how long, because what I found was it almost, it lowered my motivation and beliefs in myself. Wasn't that I didn't have goals on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis or a year, but it's kind of like the person you meet's like, all right, tell me exactly where you want to be in 5 years. I'm like, I don't fucking know. Like I have no idea. I just know that I want to be happy and healthy, really love what I'm doing, be around good people, and keep it simple, because what happens, I think people ruin their years in January, not because they can't commit or not because they don't have motivation or the ability to stay with things long enough, is that we set our standards so high, right, that we totally set ourselves up for failure. And then what it does is decreases our confidence level in ourselves to actually stick with the goal. But the goal wasn't we weren't the problem, right? Our goal was the problem. Our expectation, or maybe what we got out of the goal, was the problem. And I think that's why people have to be very careful. I'm all for setting big goals, but I'm also, about, also setting, micro goals along the way and understanding what it's going to take to get there. Because a lot of people will set goals and have no earthly idea how to make it work. Oh yeah, I think I want to start. Like sometimes you're driving down the road and you look over the strip mall and you see a sign for a store and you're like, how did anyone ever think this was a great business idea? The same thing about us, but you see like the selling, the title of the store is like 1980s pastel baskets
and more.
You're like, what?
And more. That's always the greatest
exactly, title. Right? It's also and more, which is like the telltale sign of we don't really know our business model or
we're just keeping it open.
Just keeping it open, man. We're just keeping it open. It's like they probably never did the research to figure out what it was going to take to make it sustainable and profit and loss and budget review and expenses, and it just feels like a good idea. Let's do it. And then you realize, like, once you actually get in it, you're like, oh shit, and then again, one thing it's not that person couldn't be successful in a business, is that they didn't do their due diligence in preparing themselves to do it right. And I think that's, again, going into the year, if you've got a lot of aspirations and a lot of things you want to do, and if you're not spending as much time training or racing right now, and you've got a lot of free headspace, is use that time to think through things really, really, really thoroughly to come to a good, solid conclusion that feels right. Not that feels way too out of reach. Because again, know yourself and know your personality, because some people will cower from that. Like they will 100% bail because they know they're already probably not going to make it. Right. And so I think, the greatest path towards success is to make things reasonable and objective and attainable, and make 20 of them along the way instead of setting one gigantic goal that sounds fun to tell people. But when it comes to when people aren't looking and the work that's required to do, is that going to give you motivation and more confidence, or is it going to take it away?
Yeah. You said something about your run this morning. I think it was, does this fit in? Does this even count? You're thinking about it, and we all think about it in terms of the big picture or whatever. But you said, why don't I just think about this as, is it going to make me feel good today? And when you say attainable goals, I mean, it's very rare. Like some days, or sometimes in a big block or something, there'll be a huge weekend, and then somebody will just be like red. And then it's like, then if you're imperfection, if you're kind of, starting your year with this idea of this freedom to be a little imperfect, that's okay. And I think a lot of times if you're really rolling and then you miss, then it becomes like this, catastrophic thing. But some people just kind of do that a little bit all along the way. And frankly, I don't hear it much, but a lot of times I really like the idea of somebody saying, hey coach, I think I can do more. And that to me is sort of like, okay, we sort of earned that. And you're kind of taking that approach, like it just feels good, and it's not always sort of hanging off the ledge of a, 18-story building and just trying to make it to the end, because, you've seen it many times. It's like people get 5 weeks out from an Ironman and they're absolutely shelled and kind of just ready for it to get over. And the way, I've had decent success and nothing great, but like, a lot of times I look at that last 5 weeks as the most crucial. Is like, I really want to get my body in a great place and a mind in a great place and tune up. And, even if I haven't had a great training season, I feel like at that point, if you can just sort of start feeling really good and energized and excited about the race, I think you're in a really good spot, rather than getting to that 3 weeks, begging for that 3-week taper and just kind of getting lazy and, eating everything in sight and whatever. But there's some real power in, I guess, the ebb and flow of things, like, not being perfect, because that build, every day you're perfect, that means you got to be perfect again. And like you're saying, if you start the year kind of with a, and I've just been thinking about it here, because everything I do up here training wise is basically based on what's going to feel good and not metrics and things of that nature. I kind of am the last month or so just trying to do whatever and feel good, because that is the way to live. And that's the way to train, really. And then you just build it up. Or, as the sun comes out more and your days are longer, you're just going to start feeling better. So to try to sort of wedge perfection into this time of year, I think is a slippery slope for a lot of people, because, it's just hard to maintain it, and what's wrong with feeling good, I guess, is the main question I have. I think we lose track of that a lot, because we look at the end goal and how does this fit into my race, and that's just a heavy burden, I think, to carry.
Well, you nailed it right there when you talked about, like this time of year and what it can do or can't do to your brain and to your body. And I think that's one of the biggest, as coaches, like you said, like we hear all the time, I want more, I want more, I want to do more, I can handle more. And, it's not like we're ever not saying you can't, but, and kind of going back to instilling confidence and setting you up for repeated success throughout the year, 90% of it's from the chin up. Are you committed? Do you have the bandwidth? Can you stay committed for long periods of time? And that is just the hardest thing to do this time of year. And so many athletes come, I think we talked about this. I think I even maybe broached this subject with a little bit of backlash, was like, I wonder what would happen if you move January 1st. I think I said this about Christmas, but what if you move January 1st to the summer for us?
Yeah.
It'd be a hell of a lot easier, I think, to stick with your goals. It's light outside for longer. It's warmer. You're around people. It's not like you're having to feel like you've got like in my opinion, you have everything stacked against you the beginning of the year. For most of us, right, it's one of the coldest times of year, very little to no light. Basically I feel like it's dark at like 3:30.
I know.
And it's ridiculous. I told Hayden the other day, I was like, hey, I think I'm going to send you home. I'll send you to school with a headlamp so you can come home with it so you don't get lost. Like that's how dark it's getting that early. And
yeah,
but the point being is, and very little people are doing things. They're doing it alone. They're doing it solo. And so when you start out the year with these really big expectations and goals that you have to do it, that you can only do that for such a short period of time. And so when you use that bandwidth and you start to drain that bucket of energy when it comes to being able to stay focused because it's harder to stay focused, right? So you think about the return on investment, right? From a focus and an energy and a motivation and a commitment level standpoint, you're far away from your race, right? So the return now is not going to be near the return you're going to get 8 weeks out to your race. And it's also the hardest time of year to kind of like dig deep and produce that on a day-to-day basis. So harder to produce on a mental and emotional level to get yourself out there to do things, lowest return versus, when March, April, May hits. And it's funny because like everybody gets in a better mood, right? The sun's out, it's warmer, everybody's having a good time. You're going to cookouts, the sun's out, you're in a t-shirt, you're in shorts. Life is good. Bandwidth is easier to come by, right? It's easier. You got the sun out, you got the vitamin D, the weather's warmer, everything's easier to make decisions to kind of pull from that bucket, and the return on investment is greater. You're closer to race day, you got more things to do. So just think about that when you try to pile on yourself to start the year. I just don't want to get behind. It's one of my least favorite phrases to hear as a coach. I hate how far behind I am. You're not far behind. Like, it's like there is no other version of you that is 2 weeks ahead. There's no Mike Tarrolly 2.0 that is 2 weeks ahead that's farther than you, and you are where you are. That's it. And all you can do is be the best you can be right now, but also making sure you take the time to be ready when you're going to call upon yourself to do the most work, instead of digging yourself a hole this time of year only to be missing out, right? Because a lot of people will chase the feeling of being too behind only to find out that they burn themselves out to find themselves, quote unquote, 6 weeks or 8 weeks behind come June or July. I'm just too discouraged. I just don't have the motivation. I'm just not feeling it. I'm not asking anybody to feel it in January.
Yeah.
Nobody. Like it's I mean, yeah, if you're doing, Texas, Ironman Texas, or very early season race, you got to feel a little bit.
Yeah, you better be feeling it.
Yeah, you better be feeling it. But then again, like what we talk about is like, it's not also an end of season. It's not a season ender, right? And there shouldn't be an end of season. Like, just talking about, harping on myself a little bit. It's like, it's not your fitness year doesn't start over. You are what you are. You're either getting worse or you're getting better. You're either getting fat, you're either getting fitter or you're getting slower. That's it. Healthier or not healthier. There's really no in between. Maybe for like a day or two. Other than that, then you go one way or the other. So there's never really ends. You can always think about how this is working the whole trajectory. But yes, early season race, you better be feeling it. If you got a late season race, or your first few races are a little bit not as priority, take a chill pill. Relax a little bit. It's okay to do that. And I think that's, again, like the psychological piece that athletes struggle with is, they don't ever want to label anything a B or a C race until after the race happened, or they didn't work according to. They're like, that's just a little, it's just a little C race, man. Just a little early season hit out for me. I've been feeling it lately. It's like, we all read your disclaimer of why you perform poorly. It's like athletes are so afraid to, just be, it's part of it. It's part of the progression, right? And so again, I just be careful, as you start the year, to not expect yourself to be on 24/7, to expect things of, I always tell myself, are you expecting of yourself what you would expect for someone else? And is that even fair? Would you say that was fair? Probably not. Okay, then maybe it's time to adjust our thinking to set ourselves up for success, when it really matters the most.
Yeah, and this always reminds me of that line I used years ago about exercise is supposed to give you energy, not take it away. And I think, man, like December, January, I sort of look at these months as sort of, it's my goal to go feel good. I don't have to go crush anything because, like yesterday I went out, I did a little bike in the morning, easy bike. And then later in the day I was like, I really want to go for a run. And you know how sometimes, well, a lot of times most people don't feel really like they're into the run for at least a mile or so. And I ran out and I was like, okay, I'm going to go 2 miles or 20 minutes or something. And I got towards the end of that second mile and I started feeling like, okay, I got it now. And I just ran up to the house and chucked it in. And I was like, okay with that.
Yeah.
I felt great. And then I got in my cold plunge tank and I, did a sauna and it was okay. I mean, I felt really good. I didn't have to bury myself. And I think that, like the Costanza reference, stop short, this is a stop short season.
Didn't we say this? I think we said that last year.
We may have, yeah. We got shit because I think we said George, but it was Frank Costanza.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we botched that.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's not a bad idea. It's like you don't have to swim, 4,000 right now. If 2,800 felt great, just get out, save it for tomorrow, because it's already. I mean, I took a nap the other day and I woke up and it was dark. It's like I laid down at like 3 or something. 3, 5. Yeah, and I woke up and I thought it was midnight.
It's a time warp. Like you don't even you have no idea. It feels like 8 o'clock. And you're like, oh my god, it's 5:15.
I know.
The worst.
I don't know why we have to do this, but you know what? We're here. So yeah, I mean, listen, long story short, we'll make it brevity. Listen, we're going to cut this podcast short because we're trying to make sure we're there. We're there next year. We're going to stop short. But no, in all seriousness, and a lot of this is on the coaches too, right? That lead athletes is to not, act like you're about to pull the cord on the gate of the steeplechase, and have everybody sprint as long and as hard as they can until they either finish or they get injured, or they come in last. It's that, and I think it's one of the hardest parts of coaching is to put the reins on the athletes and try to hold them back, because it really does. It all comes down to the one day that matters most to them throughout the year. And the greatest level of the greatest way to increase the chances of that being a success is, again, taking things slowly, being consistent, showing up every day, and just realizing that doing things that are fancy and outrageous are way overrated. Way, way overrated, because they're extreme. And no extreme is sustainable. Nothing. No extreme. It's either a trend or an extreme, one of the two, and I mean, hell, flip phones are coming back. So it's like, just goes to show you that, like, what's in is in and what's out is out. And then in about 2 or 3 years, what was out is now in. And you just got to do like me, never buy clothes and always stay just on the fringe of out of date and trendsetter. Because that's really how I operate here. Because if you never shop, you're always either on a going out trend or you're ahead of the trend. You're a trendsetter because what was old is now new again. And so, but in all seriousness, take care of yourself the next week or two. Have some fun, but get out and move. It's good for your health. It's good for your body. It's good for your mind, most importantly, especially right now when it's cold. I think the lack of structure, even lack of work, I think for a lot of people provides challenges in their routine and the added time they have to think about things. Is do things that are good for you, whether it's going out and having coffee with a friend, whether it's spending extra time with family, whether it's watching a movie with your kids, put the phone away, detach and be appreciative of, the whole entire year, and then be excited for the year to come. And being excited about the year and having goals doesn't mean you get them all or lose them all in January or even February, right? We always use the phrase, train so you can train the way you need to train to get ready for race day. And so like January, February, March, unless you have an early season race in March and April, that first 2 or 3 months is that train part, the first train. So just remember that, be flexible, do things for yourself, and have a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yeah. I think that's great advice, dude. I mean, it's this is the easy to hit a downward spiral season too. It's like everywhere you go on the counter, there's something to grab. I think I'm going to wear big mittens for Christmas so I don't overindulge in the Chex Mix.
Ooh, dude, I'm in a spot right now where sweets aren't really doing anything for me. I've done a pretty good job. I did an exceptional job at run camp of just having a small handful and walking away. And it's really stuck. And I'm not craving any sweets right now. But for me, it's the Chex Mix type of stuff. If there's a bowl of Chex Mix out, you might as well just put it in a pitcher and pour it down my throat, because that's where it's going to go. It's just so, especially if you get the bold and zesty, which is by far the easiest, is the best. So yeah, it's but I'm not traveling, staying put, which will help things out. But it's good to eat what you want to eat. Food is not a punishment, and neither is exercise. So just remember that in the next week. Do what you want, eat what you want, drink what you want. But remember, take care of yourself the next day. I hope Santa is good to you. I hope he brings you everything on your list. I still haven't received you and Maddie's Christmas card. I was hoping to see you in a turtleneck and a sweater vest. I'll keep waiting on that. I know there's been some mail delays.
I do e-cards.
Oh yeah, just drop me. Yeah, just
no.
Just shoot me an e-card.
E-card.
I mean, I got a giant. I mean, I'm sure they're going to come out at some point, but I got in a huge fight with Allie about our Christmas card. She sent me this picture, and she was like, "What do you think about this outfit?" And to be fair, there was no way in hell I was going to put in any effort to pick out outfits for the three of us. Zero. So you got to understand that as a man in my position. And she sends me this picture, and I'm like, I'm not wearing that. I couldn't. That couldn't be any more unlike me than I've ever seen in my entire life. that was like irate, And then I got the typical like, well, why don't you figure out the outfits? And I'm like, God, listen, I'm not trying to figure out the outfits here. Listen, I'll wear shoes. The pants are fine, and I'll wear the shirt with the premise I'm never wearing it again, ever. But I'm not wearing a sweater, and I'm sure as fuck not wearing a tie.
No.
And so, no. I mean, listen,
a tie. Cotton Dockers, is that what?
Well, I have no idea. I mean, the pants are actually kind of comfortable. They were green though. Never wearing them again. and the it was like a typical red Christmas lumberjack shirt. I'm like, no, I'm never gonna wear it again, ever. And so I got, she got her outfit. And she was like, "What do you think about this?" It's not an honor. She's like, "What do you think about this?" And I've already dug myself a hole. That's I didn't want to say what I think. I didn't want to say what I was thinking. And I said, "Whatever you want, whatever you want." But I knew that she looked like a sixth grade librarian, and so she puts it on the morning of the pictures, and I can't remember where I was. I think I was playing tennis, and she goes, "I hate this." And I said, "Let me guess. You think you look like a sixth grade librarian?" She was like, "Yep, I do." I was like, "Well, tried to tell you this, but I was too afraid." Anyway, crisis averted. She had a different outfit, but yeah, I don't know where our cards are. But if you see the outfit that I'm in and you happen to get one, you'll never see it on me ever again. Which again is why Thanksgiving is the superior holiday. It's just a reminder.
Just a reminder.
Yeah, just saying. I mean, one of Hayden's dad sent me a video, or one of Hayden's friend's dad sent me a video today. And it was like the Saturday Night Live skit with Matt Damon from like 5 years ago. And it was talking about, parents sitting back on the couch watching or reminiscing about the day. And it was like the wife's like, "Babe, didn't you have wasn't this just the best, holiday, Christmas ever?" And Matt Damon's like, "Yeah, it just, everything went so smooth. It started off, I just love seeing the kids so happy." Then it goes to like the separate screenshot, and it's like the kids running in, waking them up, jumping on the bed, screaming about Christmas. And it was again a good reminder why Thanksgiving is superior. It's like it's all the fun with none of the stress.
All right, well, I definitely want to see that outfit.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean,
you think it's an outfit I could pull off?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, really?
Oh, you mean you're a flannel guy?
Oh, it's flannel?
You have flannel shirts on the regular.
Oh, that's the first thing I did when I moved up here.
I don't know you did. I was like, dude, you're like the flannel Calvin Klein.
You got a lot of solid Fleet. My eyes, Farm and Fleet, man. My eyes got wide, and I just went into the Carhartt section and went to town.
Oh, well, do they sell flannels at Tractor Supply next to you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure they do. They're within access. I mean, arm's reach almost up here.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
Quick Trip. You can get them anywhere.
Quick Trip. Hayden loves Quick Trip. He's like, "Oh, let's go to the QT, baby." Yeah. I'm like, "It's a gas station." He's like, "No." He's like, "No, it's not. It's more than a gas station." Because that's their commercial. Oh. QT, more than gas station. I'm like, we're not going to the gas station, dude. All right. Well, we've already eased into January, so take that last part for what it's worth. Have a good time. Merry Christmas. We'll see you in 2024.
All right, buddy. Merry Christmas to all. Happy New Year.